Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap American Crime Season 3, the season finale. And before we get started, I just want to tell you guys, if you have subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I reached another milestone. I hit 200 subscribers today, so I just want to say thank you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so, because I recap other shows outside of American Crime. And just go to youtube.com/A View from Tracy's Point, and you can see all the other shows that I do. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm sure everybody was wondering how they were going to wrap this show up in the season finale, and I still think that this show needed more than 8 episodes to explore all the dynamics that the season brought. But we got the 8 episodes, and we're now here at the season finale, so let's get started. So the show opened up with the reality of Raylan's situation hitting hard when they closed the doors on that cell, and it was like, damn, I messed up. So Jeanette is with the girls when she decides to give Carson a call, and she tells him Raylene is in jail after failing the drug test, and she is facing 18 months in prison. And so Carson asks if she needs money, if that's why she's calling, but Jeanette says that she wants to come home. So Carson wants to know what is going to be different, because now that she's expressed herself and realizes that she needs to be more than a housewife, that she's not going to be content, that she's going to want more. So he needs her to put it all out on the table. And so Jeanette wants to get custody of the girls, and Carson says that he wants his own kids. He doesn't want to take care of somebody else's. So Jeanette admits she is not as strong as she thought she was, and that she's not prepared to be out here in this world alone. And so she admits that she was wrong for leaving, and that she should have talked to him and given him the opportunity for them to work things out. So Carson tells her that she will need to talk to Lorianne, but Jeanette starts crying, and Carson, I guess he really does love Jeanette, but he's also a very weak man, and so he appears to give in and, say they're gonna, work it out somehow. So Carson takes Jeanette to see Lorianne, and she seems to like the idea of them taking the girls in, and she says that they do need the next generation to come in and start learning the business, so they'll have somebody to leave it to. And then she says that JD is going to court in a week, and that he's going to confess his sins and, beg for the mercy of the court for what he's done. And so Jeanette asks if Lorianne forced JD to confess. And so Lorianne says that she really does not have the power of life and death in her hands like Jeanette thinks she does, because if she did, then they wouldn't be watching their father suffer in the hospital. And I got to thinking, did we ever see the father in the hospital? Like, they talked about the dad all the time, but I don't think we ever met the dad. So Jeanette, she isn't willing to let things go, and she brings up, the murders and the rapes and everything that's going on with the migrant workers. And then Carson finally stands up for Jeanette. I couldn't believe it, but Lorianne, says she doesn't feel bad about anything that she has done. And so Carson I think she told him that, they all have a burden to bear, but Carson's burden isn't as heavy as everybody else's. So I'm thinking Carson must be the baby, and that he's lived a very sheltered life where Lorianne has, protected him. But the next scene we see is Jeanette, and she's talking to the migrant workers, and we're thinking that, she's still in their corner and supporting them, but no, she is there to talk about how the Hesby family is a great family, and that she's proud to be a Hesby, and that they haven't done anything wrong, and that even though she's there to support the workers, she needs them to know that the Hesbys are doing the best that they can, and that they're not there to hurt them. So she goes to see Raylene to let her know that she and Carson are starting the process to become the girls' legal guardians. And then she's kind of bothered that Raylene doesn't seem to care, that Raylene thinks it's the best thing for the girls. So Raylene says that Jeanette was looking for an excuse to go back to the Hesbys, and that her situation gave her the reason to do so. And Jeanette, tells her about how Lorianne had her go speak to the migrant workers and how she didn't feel good about it. So Jeanette asks why Raylene stole the $25,000 from the family. And Raylene says that it was not for drugs, but then Jeanette, I guess, doesn't believe her, and she says that when Raylene gets out, she doesn't want her to come around the girls until she's clean, and Raylene pretty much tells Jeanette that she's very selfish, and everything she does is for herself, and that she really isn't trying to help anybody else. So then we move on to Dustin, and when the show opens up, and the first time we see Dustin, he's in the shelter, and he's like trying to figure out what he's going to do. So then Kamara gets a call, and it turns out to be Dustin, and she goes, to see what he wants, and he says he wants to talk, but he's hesitant to say anything, and Kamara says that she doesn't have time for this, and leaves him, after telling him that if he wants to talk or when he's ready to talk, that she will be around until the end of the week. So Dustin is at the bus station when he decides to call Kamara, and they go to see a detective, and he tells them about Shay, but he calls her Cassie, and he's telling, about the whole webcam house and Everett and everybody, who was living in the house and what they did. And so as he continues to talk, he says that Cassie's real name wasn't Cassie, that her name was actually Shay. So of course Kamara's like, what? And then she asks, was the girl pregnant? And he says that she was. And the next scene, we have the police, and they're going to raid the house, but it turns out that Everett has piped up and everybody has left. So Kamara goes to the morgue to identify Shay's body, but they tell her that the body is evidence in a homicide, and that it'll be a while before they can release it, and because she wants to know, can she have the body so that she can have it cremated or buried, which I thought was really nice. But Shay had a family, and she told Kamara about the family, so wouldn't you go and notify her family that she's dead? I don't know. Or maybe Shay never told her the parents' name, but I remember her saying that they lived in, her dad and the dad's girlfriend lived in D.C., I believe it was. So lo and behold, after he told them what happened to Shay, they arrested Dustin. And so, of course, Kamara was as livid as probably the rest of us as to why this would happen. And so she goes to see the assistant district attorney, who says that the reason they arrested Dustin was because he was an accessory to the crime and an accessory after the fact. And Kamara's like, but he was scared. He came and told us what happened, but the assistant district attorney, she's like, she doesn't care. So Kamara told her to go fuck herself, and I think she said it like 2 or 3 times, and I thought it was so funny that ABC is not playing with the FCC, because not only did they beep out her saying the F word, but they actually blanked out the screen, like the screen went to blank and came back when she was saying the word. So I guess they said, y'all not finding us for this. And so then Kamara goes to see Abby, and Kamara lets Abby know that she wants to come work for her, and that she knows all about Abby and Greg, and that they were working together and used her to get the funding. So Abby, the look on her face was like she's not prepared to make good on her offer and her promise to give Kamara a job. And so then Kamara was like holding her to the fire, like, you promised me this and I want it. And then Kamara said that she needed a $15,000 increase over what she's making now. And then Abby was sure enough looking like she wasn't trying to give her a job. And so the two go back and forth, and Abby says that the best she can do is $8,000, but then Kamara kind of subtly lets her know that if she doesn't give her the job and give her the $15,000 increase, that she's going to spill the beans about them lying about the numbers, and Abby's going to lose the grant. So Kamara is taking Reggie's advice and going with the program, and not, trying to be holier than thou, because it doesn't work in this world any longer. And then next time we see Kamara, she's at the fertility clinic, and she's signing up to continue her treatments to do the IVF process. So then we move over to Claire and Nicholas and the Coates family. So Claire awakens to the sound of a lawnmower and she goes in to check on Nikki, who is in his room playing. So the two of them go downstairs for breakfast and Nicholas is at the table eating his breakfast. And he is like such an asshole because he won't even say good morning to Nikki when he sits down at the table. So Nicholas says that he has found a place and will be moving out by the end of the week. And so the two start to argue. And when Claire says, don't talk in front of Nikki, you know, the way that he's talking, he storms off and he's like saying some really harsh words to Claire. And I'm just thinking like, can anybody really be that heartless and cold to their own? I mean, I know it's not his biological child, but it is a child that he paid to have conceived and come into their life. And I'm thinking Nikki's what, like 8 or 9 years old? Like, has this boy had to deal with this hateful spirit of his father his entire life? So later, Claire and Nikki are at the police department, and the detective wants to talk to Claire alone. So he has another police officer or detective, you know, to take Nikki. So he calls them in to talk about Gabrielle's injuries, and so he shows her pictures of Gabrielle and the different cuts and bruises and burns on her body. And he asks Claire again, you know, were they all self-inflicted? And Claire says that they were, but then he points out that some of the injuries were on Gabrielle's back and that they're in a place where she could not have done it to herself. So Claire says that Gabrielle was depressed because of her relationship with her son Yves, and she tells him about the letters that Gabrielle was writing and that she said that she was mailing them to God, and she took that as a sign of desperation, and that, you know, the only thing that Gabrielle had to hold on to was her faith. So the detective says that Gabrielle's son has come to America and that the reason he came was because he received the letters from Gabrielle. And so Claire is like shocked that Gabrielle had actually mailed those letters. And so he came because of what was written in the letters, and he lets Claire know that she doesn't have to say anything else at this point and that she may want to get a lawyer. So then Claire says that she needs to call her husband. So then we go over to Nicholas, and he gets a visit from the police, and they want to search the house. And so he calls his lawyer, and the lawyer is basically telling him that, you know, they're going to search Gabrielle's room to make sure there's no locks on the doors, and they want proof that they're actually paying Gabrielle. And then he asks Nicholas, you know, does he have something, you know, to hide that the police, you know, could get them in any trouble. But he says that basically whatever they find, nothing is really going to come of it. So the police begin their search, and they go into the safe where they find Gabrielle's passport. But then Nicholas says that he's sure that Claire just had it there for safekeeping, and that if Gabrielle had asked for the passport, that Claire would have given it to her. So Nicholas goes to the police station to see Claire, and he tells her that they are going to arrest her. And he then starts bitching about how much it's going to cost him to make it all go away. And he's saying that they can just offer Gabrielle some money to get her to change her story, and that, you know, it'll all go away. But then Claire confesses that, you know, she did do all the things, and that the reason she did it was because she was under stress, and that when Nicholas would yell at her and talk down to her, that would make her angry and feel bad about herself, and then she would take it out on Gabrielle. So basically she was doing to Gabrielle what she wished she could have been doing to Nicholas. I thought it was interesting how the dynamics of Nicholas and Claire's relationship is that he's so angry and ready to leave her, but then on the other hand, he wants to protect her and get her out of this mess. And so I guess for him, it's just all about business, and for Claire, it's about, you know, she has feelings and emotions and everything, and so she's been forced to suppress her emotions because of the way he treats her. But either way, I was happy when Claire says that she just wanted to confess and tells Nicholas that he needs to take care of Nikki while she is in prison. And I'm thinking, okay, Claire is crazy too, because there is no way in hell that I would allow Nicholas to take care of my child. But then I was thinking, I think they did say in the last episode that Claire's mother died like 5 years ago. So maybe there's nobody else that she has to send Nikki to. But I'm thinking, dang, I don't know if I would want Nicholas taking care of him. So then we move over to Gabrielle, and she's in the hospital. And the first time we saw Gabrielle in this episode, she's like crying, and she's really droggy and drugged up. And then they're giving her more drugs. And I just felt so sorry for her and how scared she must be to be in this country and doesn't have any money, doesn't know how she's going to get out of the country. And then they got her up here on the psych ward for a 72-hour hold. And it just really had to be a scary time for her. So Gabrielle gets a visitor, and it is her son, Yves, and he comes in, you know, to talk to her and tell her that he's going to take her back to Haiti. But Gabrielle says she don't want to go to Haiti, that she needs to stay in America so she can help Nikki and help take care of him because he doesn't have anyone. And then Yves is upset, you know, because he says that Gabrielle always chooses other people's children over him. And so Gabrielle says that she has to work and that, you know, she had to take care of them, and that, you know, she was sorry that she couldn't like be this full-time mom. So Yves says that, you know, I guess he would have preferred to be with Gabrielle, poor, living on the streets, than to have had a place to live and an opportunity in life, you know, without her, which I think is something that probably most kids feel about their parents. They just want to feel loved, and they want to love their parents and be with them all the time. And so Yves prepares to leave, but Gabrielle asks him, you know, to stay. And then she's like, why do we always have to walk over each other? Like, why can't we figure out how to make this thing work? And so he stops and turns around, and he goes back and pulls a chair up right next to her, and he sits next to her. And then they do this thing where she had her hand on the table, and then he put his hand on top of her hand, and she put her other hand on top of his. So I thought that was his, and I thought that was, you know, very touching. So the show ends with Raylan and Dustin, and they're at the courthouse in like a holding room, and they've been given their street clothes to change into. And then we have Claire, and she's arriving at the courthouse with her family. And so then we have all three of them like going into a courtroom, you know, for their arraignment or their hearing. And so, you know, the camera's kind of panning around, you know, to each one of them, and then it's showing like Claire's family is there. And then Kamara is there for Justin, and Carson and their family is there for Raylan. I think that's how it was. So anyway, there we have, you know, they're just like panning around the courtrooms, and then we have the bailiff, and she begins to talk, and she says that we're here to serve justice, and then she tells everybody to please be seated. And then as the people sit down and the camera goes to the back of the courtroom, and then we see Isaac, Shay, and Teo, you know, standing in the back of the room. And so we don't get to find out what the justice is. I guess it's up to us to decide how each one of these people should be punished and penalized for their crimes against humanity. And so I was feeling kind of melancholy on, you know, like not sure how I felt about this ending, because I needed some sentences to be handed out. I needed Claire to get a harsh sentence for the way she treated Gabrielle. I needed Raylan maybe to be sentenced to like a drug rehab center for like 18 months or something. And then I needed Dustin to be released. I didn't need him going to jail or doing any time. But anyway, another great season of American Crime. I hope they don't cancel this show and that they bring it back again. And so that's it for me, guys. Let me know what you thought about the season finale. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, it won't be American Crime, but you can check out some of my other shows that I recap at youtube.com/A View from Tracy's Point. Everyone have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.